do you think it was that where you come from that got you into that in the first place, where you think, yes, we're all an island, pull yourself up from your bootstraps, every man for himself?
Well, I had been a drunk, derelict, homeless son of a bitch that had somehow or another worked his way through family, begging, borrowing, stealing, doing whatever I could to get 2 master's degrees and everything else. And I was like, fuck it. If I can do it, you can do it. And it became a chip on my shoulder because I got really pissed off at a lot of the bougie assholes out there who acted like they were better than I was. But I dusted their ass. I passed them, right? But then I realized in the end, as I fell further, because I had risen high, I fell far, okay? And it was in that moment that I was like, it wasn't any good before I did this, and it's not any good after I did this. Something's really fucked up in the sauce. Let's get to the ingredients. And so Ron Paul said a lot of really great things. I have still got old pictures of me with all my Ron Paul shirts, and my whole front yard used to be covered in Ron Paul signs. Everything I did was Ron Paul, Creature from Jekyll Isle. Fuck that fiat stuff, man. We need to get back on the gold standard. I said all the same moronic things. The petrodollar. Let's talk about the petrodollar.
Okay, let's, because most of this stuff doesn't really make sense to me, but I'm good. I can't allocate too much mental energy to understanding this. I really just can't.
This is so easy. A caveman can learn.
You could try. I don't understand the point spread of a game, and Jason's explained it to me 1,000 times. He's even drawn pictures. So I'm just saying there are certain things. Go ahead, petrodollar.
Just think about it like this, right? So you have to purchase. They've priced gas in a common currency. Okay, now. What is the need to have that currency to purchase that gas matter? Well, Warren Mosler would tell you what matters is the currency people want to save in, okay? But in reality, anybody can get US dollars. All they have to do is swap them on the FX exchange. The difference will be whether or not their currency is strong against the dollar and what the exchange rate is, and they can get US dollars to buy their gas. But in the end, they don't want to keep US dollars necessarily unless it serves some need. Are they doing a shit ton of business with the US? If they are, they're going to want a shit ton of US dollars. If they're people like Venezuelans who have pegged their currency to US dollars, they need to have a commensurate amount of reserves of US dollars to facilitate transactions in that currency because it's not their currency. So these are things that having an external peg or an external constraint create like almost a pseudo tax. You've got to have US dollars to get petroleum. It's priced in that, but they don't keep US dollars because they don't use US dollars at home. They just use them for transactions for this. So it's a swap. And so there's a lot of calculations they go through, but in the end, that does create a special thing for us on the global stage. It does. It does produce some privilege for sure. But if it collapsed just like there's no Japanese petrodollar, and the Japanese still have no problem whatsoever running a 300 to 1 debt to GDP ratio, okay? They have a 300% debt to GDP ratio. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah, I am, and I don't even I can't.
In other words, they are creating more money for Japanese world, and they are buying their own securities for no reason other than that's the game they're playing. In other words, they're spending more than they're taxing 300%. Okay.
Okay.
They're like the US. The difference is they don't have idiots. They're saying, we're going to do this because it makes sense.
Right.
Okay. China does the same thing. All their Belt and Road Initiative. Hey, how come the Chinese poor people haven't paid all their taxes to fund all these big Belt and, One Belt, One Road Initiative? Because the freaking government creates its own currency. It does it. Okay. Jesus Christ. It's like these moments of blinding flashes of the obvious. I mean, at some point in time, the concepts that we've used as tropes to kind of say, oh, the dollar's going to die. This is going to happen. As much as I want empire to go away, understanding the way the currency has been used as a weapon is more about the ability to cut people off with the SWIFT system. You saw what happened with Russia when we cut them off with the SWIFT system. They turned around and they started using gold in the back end. It wasn't what they wanted to use, but it was a way of getting away from the SWIFT system.
Okay, so answer this question that Metalopoly has. Shouldn't money have something tangible backing it rather than imaginary money on a spreadsheet?
Okay. Fuck no. Okay, because a free floating fiat currency allows the most policy space to take care of your people. The problem is that our country isn't taking care of. You're not seeing wild fluctuations in your value of your dollar. It's not happening. Yes, there's some mild inflation. It feels like a lot because shit, anything raises up is a lot hurts because we don't create our own currency. Okay. But the fact of the matter is that the US government, everything that we're seeing is 100% a policy choice by them. Why would they raise interest rates to prevent corn prices from going up? Why would they raise interest rates to stop fuel prices from going up? Doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Because there's no impact, there's no tangible tie to it. Okay, what they're fundamentally doing there is they're taking and putting the burden of balancing the inflation and bringing inflation down on the backs of we the people, okay, instead of the price gougers. What could they do just as easy as raise interest rates and put pressure on us? They could put price controls. They could collar commodities. They could literally set up bountiful, like buffer stocks of these things to prevent the kind of gouging, to literally take pressure out of the market by putting more out there to prevent them from gouging. So much of this is a matter of purpose. They're capitalists and they want to make sure that capital wins at the expense of we the people. The more precarity we're in, the more power they have. The more power they have, the more able they are to make us do things we don't want to do. Okay. And the more they're able to give us bad choices, like, do you want Trump or do you want Biden? Wow, really? Is that really it? Okay, well, shit. And so they purposely put poison pills out there for us.
Yeah.
And in the end, if you understand like things like the petrodollar, they were used to standardize, to create a dollar standard around the world. So they were trying to build a platform that enabled the dollar to kind of be the default reserve currency, right? Well, there's a basket of reserve currencies. It isn't just the US dollar. And so because we've got 800 bases around the world, there's a lot of need for the US dollar. And there's a lot of use of it for coercion and for extraction and for debts and all kinds of other things that are geopolitical in nature that have nothing to do with finance and everything to do with slavery. Okay. Yeah. So to me, when I look at this and I look at it honestly, I say, get rid of the petrodollar. What is it going to do? It's going to make the US dollar less strong in terms of being able to hold power in other countries. It's going to take away some of the power we have in forcing people to do various things that we would like them to do. And that's a good thing, right? But it's not going to bring an end to the dollar. What it might do is it might bring an end to hegemony, which will allow other countries to get out from under the claws of the United States SWIFT system. But alas, don't forget, with the IMF there as the big money giver, all right? The IMF is there. I'm kind of rooting for the BRICS in the sense to produce an alternative to the IMF. I'm kind of looking at these other groups to present a non-predatory version of the IMF so that people are in cooperation, not in predation. So the petrodollar in and of itself is a nothing burger, okay? It's like Chuck E. Cheese. You went to the Chuck E. Cheese, you put your dollar in the machine, you got Chuck Bucks out, you finish playing your Chuck E. Cheese games, you have 5 Chuck Bucks left over, cash them in and get your money back.
Get a cheap gift,
Whatever, right? And so it kind of cracked. The petrodollar is quite a real system. Yes, the petrodollar is what we price fuel in, but it is not something that is actually driving the quote unquote value of the dollar. What the issue we have to get our heads around is, do we want to be an empire? If we want to be an empire, and I don't want to be one, by the way, but if we want to be an empire, okay, then we care about the petrodollar. Then we want to have the dollar as the primary world reserve currency. We want to have the IMF, the World Trade Organization, and the World Bank heavily involved in every one of these countries' lives to keep them tied to us. We want that. If we want to be a cooperative society, we find ways of democratizing those institutions, take away the structural adjustments the U.S. imposes to enforce U.S. markets. Okay. And it does the things that we would say to do, but they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. Why are they not going to do that? Because they love empire. Empire serves their needs. Okay. But there are some costs to ending empire. Bringing production back home means there's going to be a different kind of work. There's going to be a different kind of industrial structure to society. We're going to be back to having shift work at the plant. We're going to be back to doing things that we've gotten away from doing, that we've gotten into service work to do. Whereas instead of standing 12 hours at an assembly line doing stuff. But guess what? The more we talk about production, the more we talk about industrialization, all of a sudden we get to that boogeyman, automation, right? And that's where the UBI folks come out of the woodwork. And what I'm here to say is that we have options there too. We don't have to just do work for the man. We can create societal jobs in our communities through a federal job guarantee that makes it so these predatory corporations are unable to predate on you and I and our friends and neighbors and family members and the people that are most vulnerable. So to me, there's answers to every one of these problems. The petrodollar is not a problem. It is what it is. It's not a big deal. I know that people really, really put it out there like it is, and I appreciate that the people believe that it is. But I'm here to tell you that if we do it, we lose a little bit of privilege. In the end, we lose access to cheap imports, and most of the cheap imports have come as a direct result of empire and neocolonialism through the IMF and other things like that.
There is no question that the average American has basically accepted their own demise.
Yes.
So many
absolutely.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.